Hello everyone, welcome back to FantasyFootballFix.com. My name's FPL Phillips and welcome back to another episode of Eddie versus the Algorithm, the series where every game week of the season we take a look at the computer-generated team that the Fantasy Football Fix algorithm has predicted will score the most points ahead of the upcoming game week. I then put together my own free hit team and we face them off against each other every game week of the season to see who can come out with more points at the end of the year. Can the man beat the machine? Well, we'll find out, and if you want to follow along for the rest of the season, then make sure to subscribe down below if you are seeing us for the first time for all the other amazing content we've got coming your way as well. But without any further ado, let's get into having a look at how this lineup is shaping up ahead of game week 6. And the algorithm has gone for a 4-3-3 formation this week, predicted to score 65 points ahead of game week 6. And in goal for the team this week is going to be Dean Henderson, who looks a very promising option, not only for this week, but for the next few fixtures as well. And a lot of people are considering as a Ramsdale replacement, and this Bournemouth fixture is probably the best you can have in the league to target. Bournemouth at home, they've been diabolical so far this season. Dean Henderson's looked pretty good as well. Of course, a lot of his points have come from penalty saves. That is worth noting. He won't be getting those every week, of course, and so he's perhaps being transferred in a little bit more than maybe he should be. There is an argument that Sanchez and maybe even Raya are still better options around that price point. Nick Pope as well looks a good, slightly more expensive option if you're looking to bring in a goalkeeper. But Dean Henderson, over those next 3 fixtures, and particularly in this Bournemouth fixture, looks a fantastic goalkeeper option to go for. And then in defence, I'm interested to see, are they going to be doubling up? They are indeed. Nico Williams also makes his way into the algorithm 11 for that home fixture that we mentioned against Bournemouth. And Nico Williams has looked brilliant from an attacking point of view as well this season. The number 7 for Nottingham Forest, on set pieces too, expected goals and expected assists that I've checked over on the OptaStats tool of Fantasy Football Fix look very, very promising indeed. And then to his left, you can see Max Kilman, who actually was in the algorithm team last week and manages to retain his place for Wolves' upcoming game against Southampton. And Kilman actually mastered 3 bonus points in that game, so very impressive indeed from the young man. I wrote him off a little bit, but it seems the algorithm does know its stuff, bringing him in and keeping him in for this game. I think Southampton's a slightly trickier fixture, to be honest. I'm not sure I can see Wolves getting another clean sheet there, but it is a nice home game, and Kilman, as mentioned, very high on the bonus point system, which is promising to see. And then finally, rounding off the back 4, we've got the Liverpool double up. They keep their places in the algorithm side when many of them will be removing Robertson. The other FPL managers are certainly looking to get rid, myself included, to be honest. So it's interesting to see him still in this algorithm team ahead of the Everton Merseyside derby. So yeah, Robertson and Trent still look pretty good going forward, not the best, and of course the main issue being that Liverpool just aren't keeping clean sheets at the moment, which when you're paying 7.5 million for these defenders, you'd expect some clean sheet potential in there at least. So they get one more week for the algorithm. I think Trent will be in the team for the majority of the season, to be honest, no matter what the fixture is. He wasn't in it a couple of weeks ago, and we went for him in a tougher fixture, and 17 points is what Trent can do. So he's in the team this week, and Everton, of course, is a pretty nice game to target, albeit at Goodison Park. Now we're going to move into the midfielders then, and Mohamed Salah doesn't get his place in the team this week because Heung-min Son is in for that home game against Fulham, which, to be honest, as myself looking at the computer, I'm a little bit concerned about. Son's not looked great so far this season, and I think, to be honest, the computer's going based on last season data and seasons before that when Son has been so consistent. But if there is any game for the Spurs attack to target, it is really that home game against Fulham. Despite them not looking as bad as sides such as Bournemouth, I still think it's a very nice fixture to target, and probably an easier fixture than Everton away. There's also the fact that Salah hasn't looked at his best as well. Those 2 assists he managed to get in Liverpool's last game were a bit fluky, really. His expected data isn't the best at all. And maybe Heung-min Son's worth a punt this week. If you still own Heung-min Son, maybe that's evidence to hold on for one more week. There's also the issue of him being substituted early for Richarlison, which has been a worrying sign. And maybe Richarlison could even get a start in this game, where we're likely to see some Spurs rotation in other positions, such as left wing back, where I'm predicting that Sessegnon will come in for Ivan Perisic. But the Spurs double up continues with Kulusevski in midfield as the 8 million midfielder of choice, which is interesting to see. And then McAllister as the third midfield option at 5.5. So a very, very differential midfield. And what I wanted to have a look at and compare was, is McAllister a viable option when we look at other midfielders around that 5.5 million price department? And when we look at expected FPL points, they would suggest so. Per 90 so far this season, McAllister's mastered the most out of the 4 players I've put on this list and the 3 others I'm comparing him to. 2 with 5.38 compared to Gordon with 4.96 in second, Eze on 4.14 and Aronson 4th out of the 4 options with 3.89. It is worth noting that McAllister is on penalties and he's had 2 of them so far, which will be where a large and vast amount of that expected goals you can see is coming from. But even with that, he's not first out of the 4 options, with Gordon on 0.39 ahead of him and Eze of Crystal Palace on 0.20. There are other few options I were considering. These weren't the only picks. I even considered putting some slightly more expensive midfielders such as Harrison, who were really kind of up a 0.5 million price bracket in here too. Elise is also returning for Crystal Palace, where he nearly made the list. But McAllister still looks a decent option to go for, and as you can see from the predicted points for game week 6, in that game against Leicester, which looks a very nice fixture indeed, that's the reason that he makes the algorithm team for this game week alone. But then you can see in the very bottom row, over the next 5 game weeks, he's also predicted to score the most points out of these 4 midfielders. So if you're looking for a 5.5 million midfielder, perhaps you want to downgrade Rodrigo, maybe in order to upgrade elsewhere, or you just can't afford a like-for-like replacement, then McAllister certainly doesn't look like a bad option at all, and it's nice to see that the algorithm is backing him to get a decent points total over the next 5 fixtures. So yeah, a 5.5 million midfielders, certainly a KG price bracket. Who are you going for around that price, if anyone? Or are you trying to upgrade to the likes of Zaha, maybe even upgrade even further to someone like a Luis Diaz or another 8 million midfielder? Or are you just downgrading all the way to another 4.5 in order to upgrade in another position? Because we've been seeing quite a lot of good defenders and also some strong forwards, so a lot of people switching to a 3 up front formation, it seems, as of late. And speaking of 3 up front formations, that's what the algorithm's gone with this week, and here is the front line that is picked, a very strong one indeed, going with 2 premiums in Harry Kane and Erling Haaland, and then Tony as the 3rd forward. And Harry Kane takes the captain's armband this week, as mentioned, for that nice fixture against Fulham at home. Of course, the algorithm will be taking into account previous seasons of Fulham in the Premier League, where they have looked like a much more improved side this year, it is worth noting. But Harry Kane still takes the armband over Erling Haaland, who of course has a risk with his expected minutes. Looking with the game on Sevilla on Tuesday, it looks very likely that Haaland will be benched, and if not, he probably won't get that many minutes in the game to do any damage against Aston Villa, although we did see him do damage in a very short amount of time against Nottingham Forest in the game recently in game week 5. So yeah, a very nice option to go for. I certainly would keep Haaland in my team, and I probably have him in a free hit team as well. I'd also have Harry Kane. Tony for that game against Leeds looked pretty good indeed. There are other forward options emerging, such as Isak and of course Mitrovic as well, who does have a slightly tougher game against Tottenham on paper. But with Mitrovic, we've seen him score against difficult sides so far this year. There is an argument for even bringing him in ahead of those slightly tougher fixtures that Fulham have before the wildcard opportunity that's popular around game week 8 and game week 9. So I really, really am a fan of that front 3. It's just a case of whether people can afford it if they still have Mohamed Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold, the likes of these other premiums in their teams. But on the bench this week, it's going to be Andreas, Patterson and Gilmour, so not a great set of fixtures down there on the bench, but Andreas, you never know, can get anything from a set piece really when Mitrovic is in the box. Patterson against Liverpool, and then Gilmour, who's of course moved across to Brighton. So yeah, there's not going to be too much in there in terms of returns, but we're not going to hope these players are coming out onto the pitch. You never know, Erling Haaland might not play at all or feature at all in that Aston Villa game, then you have to rely on Andreas, who probably still isn't the worst option, even with what we would say is a tough fixture against Tottenham. So yeah, a very nice looking team for the algorithm this week, but now we need to have a look and switch over to what the changes would be that I would make. And as you can see, I've kept the front 3 exactly the same. I've kept the armband exactly in the same place as well. But I've switched it up. I've gone for the triple Liverpool, and I've actually brought in 2 Liverpool midfielders with Mohamed Salah and Luis Diaz. So I think we're quite unlucky not to get more against Newcastle, and I think we'll do more damage against Everton, who are a weaker defence. I've also gone for Pascal Gross and Estupiñán, so doubling up on Brighton just because of how poor Leicester have looked as of late against Manchester United. They looked really, really dire on Thursday night. So I've gone for Pascal Gross, who's like the standout Brighton attacker for me. I know he's not on penalties because, as we discussed, McAllister is, but I still think he looks great in an advanced position. There is the one worry that Estupiñán, who you can see also in the side, has pushed Trossard further forward, who will hog more of the attacking returns, but Estupiñán picked up an assist in game week 5, and I could see him getting more in the future too. I've stuck with that double up on the Nottingham Forest defence. I've also got Trent still in there too, and then I've brought in Kieran Trippier as the last player for that home game against Crystal Palace, which I'm expecting the clean sheet will probably definitely be wiped out by Wilfred Zaha now. But Trippier always looks good from an attacking point of view as well. So even if he doesn't get the clean sheet, which Newcastle have looked very good from so far this year, even with those tough fixtures included in the data set, Newcastle look a very, very strong side to target, and Trippier looks a very, very good attacking asset to own. So yeah, that's my team ahead of this week. 61 predicted points for me. Let me know who you think is going to win out of myself and the algorithm and make it 3-2 in the series so far. Like the video if you have enjoyed, and make sure to subscribe as mentioned at the start if you are new around here. But until next time, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all very soon. Best of luck for Game Week 6.